Hi, this is Rich Ralston. I'm the author of a book called About You, and it's a little book I put together. It's only like 47 pages, but the goal of this book is to prepare you for when you physically die. Now, I've got other videos about dimensions and octaves and all this, your higher and lower soul, but I just want to go really briefly as to what would you expect to do when you find yourself outside of your body? First of all, you're going to find yourself floating above your body in what we call an higher octave. There's 12 octaves to the third dimension. You're operating in the first six. You'll end up in the 10th, 11th, and 12th octave. Your soul will then have to decide what it's going to do. Now, we're talking about what we call the heaven-bound soul, the higher consciousness. Now, that soul needs to go home. It needs to be in the fifth dimension with your family and friends. So, in order to get to the fifth dimension, it has to go through the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is kind of a neutral zone of energy. So that's where this term crossing over comes from. We're crossing from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. So your family and friends are waiting up there for you. They've died before you, and they're just anticipating your arrival. Now you're going to be in spirit form, and everything that you do is by thought. You're not in your physical form. You can't get in a car and drive there. You're going to think. You're going to put your intent when you're above your body and you look up and you may see a light open. You say, okay, I'm ready to go home. I'd like to go see my wife, child, daughter, son, doesn't matter. I'm putting my intent in going to the fifth dimension. And you will go. You'll see an opening and you follow into it. Okay, it's called crossing over. Now, when you get up there, the first sections, now I've got them categorized in here. Um, and you have to understand, I've been up in there and I've had guides show me these different places. So don't hold me to exact locations and stuff. It's just, generally speaking, you're going to go first what we call meet and greet. You're going to meet your relatives and your soul group. And that can be your friends as well. And I don't know how long it takes because there's no time up there. You don't have a body to check on. You don't have a body clock to work with. And then after that, you have a chance to do an evaluation of your life. It's kind of like watching a movie of everything that occurred in your lifetime, and you'll judge yourself as to what you accomplished or what you should have accomplished. You got a lot of time to think through the what if I did this and what if I done that and all that kind of stuff. Well, after that, you can go visit other soul groups. Okay, you can go around the world and visit soul groups. Well, let's say that you have relatives on Earth still alive and you'd like to go see them. So you've gone from being what we would call a ghost in the third dimension to what we call spirit in the fifth. And when you reach that octave up in the dimension, you can basically go back down to the third dimension in spirit form, and you can visit family and friends in spirit form. You'll be in the 10th octave, and they'll be in the 6th. Some people will be able to pick you up, and other people won't. But some people say, well, I just feel the presence of my son. I just feel his love. Well, that's because you're there and you're radiating love towards him, and he's picking it up in his higher chakras. That's the way it works. You're not crazy. They're not crazy. Okay? You're just there in spirit form. Now, let's go back up to the fifth dimension. So let's say that you go around and you visit some soul groups and you decide you want to reincarnate. And I want to go back to Europe and reincarnate in Europe, let's say. So you would go up to talk to ascended masters, teachers, And Jesus and Muhammad and those, they're categorized as teachers. There's a bunch of different beings up there you can communicate with, and I only know a few of them. But you can figure out if you want to come back on Earth or not. If so, then you can put in your request, and you have to wait for a human to be born, and you reincarnate back. Okay. Or you could say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go back to that rat race. I want to be a helper. So we call those guides. So you can guide or help other souls. And all of that is usually in the sixth dimension. Now, in my book, I put down the seventh dimension is where Jesus and all the ascended masters are. And really, they're in the sixth. The seventh is the beginning of the quantum field, just so I stand corrected. But when you get up into those realms, you're not going to care what I wrote anyway. The main thing is that you have some sort of an idea of what you can do. You're not going to be just sitting around doing nothing unless you choose to do nothing. Okay? You have free will, and you can change your mind. Because when you first die, whatever you believe is what you carry with you to the other side. So you may have been a religious person, and you get up to the fifth, and you reevaluate your religious beliefs and go, I don't want to do that again. That didn't really help me in that lifetime, but in this lifetime, the next lifetime, I think I'm going to do something different. You have the freedom to do that. Okay, so it's a little different than what we've been taught on Earth, because most people don't really understand it, and everybody's life experience up there can be a little different. So what I'm telling you isn't paved in concrete, but it's kind of a guideline, because they don't hand you instruction manuals when you die. Okay, your soul is going to be up there hovering above your body, and I want you to remember to look into the light and go where you might see an angel, you might see Jesus, you might see a friend, doesn't matter. Go into the light and get up to the fifth dimension. Okay, now you don't even have to believe what I'm telling you. Just remember what I'm saying to you. Okay? So if you're sitting there in the 10th octave going, what the hell am I going to do? Oh, there's a light. Go into it and go home. Okay? Now, sometimes souls, if you hesitate and you don't, and you get distracted and you go visit somebody else that's alive, then it makes it a little bit more difficult for you to cross over, because then you have to use your own intent. You can use your own intent and say, okay, I want to cross over. I want to open up a portal, ask an angel to help you, assist you, and get to the other side. Now, as a spiritual medium, I've crossed over thousands of souls that got stuck. And I wrote this book during the COVID pandemic, because when people get murdered or they get killed in car accidents, and it's called soul shock, and their soul is in a state of confusion, especially the COVID people, because they had this virus going and they were delirious, they were isolated, they didn't get a chance to even say goodbye to their families. It was a terrifying experience for many of them to die in that nature. So their souls didn't know what to do, so they just kind of hung around the hospitals. So I would have to go and explain to them, remove the confusion first, and then send them home. So, and I've done this on battlegrounds, battlefields. Now, I wrote a book here called Afterlife in Hawaii. Okay, I spent 7 years in these Hawaiian islands where I live, crossing souls over, going to battlefields. All these warriors that were killed, Kamehameha and all of his buddies, they all got killed, and they have stories. So I was able to listen to their stories, and I've written them down. So if you're interested in the afterlife, it's got about maybe 50, 60 stories. I've recorded hundreds of stories, but I just put my favorites into this book. And my experiences, having a near-death experience, going through this vortex that you see right here to my soul group in Hawaii. So I explained some of that too. So I'm hoping that by writing this book, you can cross over and be with your family. And by writing this book, you can find it entertaining and maybe gain some insight and knowledge at the same time. So thank you very much. Aloha.